Hi, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristen. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing my October reading wrap-up. So I only read 5 books in the month of October, which isn't a bad thing, but just these last couple months I haven't been reading as much as I normally do. But the 5 books that I did read, I did enjoy them. I feel like I still had a really good reading month, even though I didn't get through as many books as I had hoped I would. But yeah, I'm still really excited to talk about all of these books today. So yeah, let's just get into the video. I'm just going to be sharing all of the books I read, giving a brief summary on them, and just kind of some of my thoughts and my ratings. So the first book that I read this month was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I actually had started this one in September, so I was kind of reading it throughout the end of September, and then I finished at the beginning of this month. So this book is a college hockey sports romance, and the two main characters are Anastasia and Nate. And so the two of them attend the same college. Anastasia is a figure skater, and then Nate is the captain of the hockey team. They've never really interacted. They have separate rinks for the figure skaters and the hockey team, but then something happens at the hockey rink, and basically it's under maintenance, and so they have to share a rink with the figure skaters. And Anastasia is very focused on her future and her goals and everything. She is a pair skater, and she has a goal to obviously go to the Olympics eventually, so she's kind of been training her whole life for that. So she kind of doesn't like that these hockey players are coming in, and she's kind of having to split her time at the rink with them. And so this book is also kind of reverse Grumpy Sunshine. She is a very kind of grumpy person because she's not very happy about the situation, and then Nathan is just very much has the golden retriever energy. He's very sunshine. He's kind of trying to be her friend and get along with her and everything. It is a little bit like enemies to lovers in a way, just because they don't really get along at first. They clash a lot, but they kind of start spending more time together, mostly because her best friend starts dating his best friend, and so it kind of brings them together. They kind of start to form this friend group, so you have a little bit of the found family aspect there. So it's mainly about that. Honestly, there's not really much of a plot in this book. It is very character driven, but I think the characters were great. I thought they were all well written. I liked all these characters. Even all the side characters were a lot of fun to read about and getting to know them. I do feel like there was times where it was a little bit too much of just getting all of these characters and getting to know them. It was just a lot of information added in there about all of them, but they were all really likable characters. I think I definitely enjoy character driven books, and I enjoy books that are kind of more just fluff, I guess, in a way, rather than a bunch of dramatic things happening. I just didn't know that going into this book, so I was expecting a little bit more from it, but overall I did really enjoy it. Like I said, I loved these characters, and I thought the relationship between Anastasia and Nathan was really sweet. I really loved seeing them kind of get closer to each other and eventually fall for each other. I ended up rating this one 4.75 stars. I was a little bit on the fence. I wasn't sure if I wanted to rate it 5 stars because I did think it was a really cute, enjoyable book, and I also did really love it a lot, but for some reason it just didn't feel like a 5-star rate. I think, like I said, I was just expecting a little bit more from it, so that's kind of what prevented me from rating it 5 stars. But obviously 4.75 is still a great rating. I still really enjoyed it. It was a really great book, and I would definitely recommend it. The next book I read was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This was a reread for me. The first time I read this was last year in January of 2021. So basically I wanted to reread it because first of all, I love this book, so I had just been wanting to read it again because it's one of my favorite books. But obviously It Starts With Us came out in October, so I wanted to reread it before reading It Starts With Us. So I reread it. I did a whole reading vlog / review of this book, so that's up on my channel. I went into detail about all of my thoughts there, so I'm not going to go into too much about it in this video. But basically I was a little bit worried about rereading it for different reasons. One of them being I wasn't sure if I would love it as much as I did the first time if I read it again. So I kind of didn't want to ruin that for me by reading it again. But after rereading it again, I'm so glad that I did, because I ended up loving it just as much as the first time that I read it. So this book, the first time I read it, I rated it 5 stars. I wasn't planning to change my rating or anything when I did reread it, but I also didn't need to. I still loved it, so obviously it's still a 5-star read for me. The next book I read was Fuel the Fire by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the 8th book in the Addicted / Calloway Sisters series, and I finally read it. I had been saying I was going to read it for the longest time. I literally bring up this series all the time. It's always in my TBR videos, and I always talk about how I need to finish it. So I actually started it just about a year ago from right now. I started it last November, and I just barely finished the 8th book. Obviously, as of now, I have 2 books left in this series. So yeah, so I finally read this one, and I'm really glad that I did. I really enjoyed it a lot. I love this series so much, so I knew I was gonna love this book. So basically this book follows Rose and Connor, and they're a couple that has been in this series obviously since the beginning. I won't go too much into what it's about because I really can't, because it's the 8th book in the series and there's really no way to explain what it's about without giving any spoilers. I will say with Rose and Connor, if I were to rank the 3 couples of this series, they're number 3 for me. Honestly, they were actually my first favorite couple of this series. Like, they were the ones that I loved first out of the 3 couples, but then as I continued on with the series, they actually became, I guess I would say, least favorite, but I still love them a lot. Like, I still love all of these characters so much, but I do have a ranking for them, and Rose and Connor as a couple are ranked last for me. But after finishing Kiss the Sky, I remember I was like really looking forward to eventually getting to Feel the Fire, because I felt like maybe it would change my opinion on them and make me love them even more. And I kind of feel like it didn't. Like, I still love them obviously, but I feel like my opinion's the same. Like, they're still like my 3rd ranked couple of these 3 couples, but not that that's necessarily a bad thing because I still love them, but they're just ranked last for me. So this book didn't really change my opinion on them that much, but I mean, I didn't have a bad opinion of them in the first place, so I guess that doesn't really matter. But anyway, I obviously love this series so much. It's just so good, and it is another series that is very character driven, but I love all 6 of these main characters a lot, so it's just really fun to like read all these books and read all about them. So of course I rated this one 5 stars. I will say that I was a little bit unsure at first. Like, I almost didn't rate it 5 stars just because I just didn't really care that much for the plot of this one. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I was expecting a little bit more from this book, but obviously because I love these characters so much and this book is very character driven, that's what ultimately made me decide on a 5-star rating. So yeah, obviously now I am close to the end of the series. I have 1 book left before the epilogue book, and I'm planning to read that one hopefully this month. The next book I read was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. So this was my most anticipated book of the whole year. Obviously earlier I talked about how much I loved It Ends With Us, so I couldn't wait to get the sequel to that story. I did do a book review video for this book, so that's up on my channel, so I'm not gonna go like too in depth on my thoughts on it, but I will say that I did really love this book. It definitely didn't disappoint me. I feel like I've been seeing kind of like some mixed reviews about it, and I definitely see both sides to it. Like, I've seen kind of people's thoughts on it, the people who didn't really like it as much, and I definitely understand like where they're coming from. But for me personally, it was pretty much everything I wanted for this book. I was very happy with it and I loved it, so of course I also rated this book 5 stars. So the last book that I read in October was Scoring Chance by Tegan Hunter. So this book is a hockey sports romance. It is part of a series. It's the 5th book in the Carolina Comet series, so basically it follows this professional hockey team and different guys on the team each get a book. They are interconnected standalones. You don't have to read the other ones to read this one, but I will say that this is like a cute, lighthearted series. I've really enjoyed it so far. This one was my least favorite, which is kind of disappointing because it was the one that I was most excited for of these books. So this book follows Miller and Scout, and you actually meet both of them, I think, since like the beginning. Like, they're both in the first book, but their romance isn't really hinted at until the 4th book. And so basically Miller is on the hockey team. He's like the youngest one on the team. At this point he's 24. He's been playing with them for a couple years now. And then Scout is actually older than him. She's 28 and she runs a donut food truck. Basically she's been there since the beginning because all of the hockey players really love her donuts and they all go to like see her and buy donuts from her all the time. So she's been making appearances since the first book. And so in this book we find out that Scout has had a crush on Miller for quite a while now, but he doesn't really notice her, and at one point he actually sees her outside of work and introduces himself to her. So she's kind of offended by that he like didn't recognize her when he shows up to her truck all the time. So when he shows up to her truck, she kind of avoids him and he kind of tries to like become her friend, and she just kind of is annoyed with him and doesn't really want to be friends with him. But he's determined to win her over. So it's kind of friends to lovers. They start to spend more time together and eventually kind of start to fall for each other. So yeah, so this book I think is the shortest one of these books, and I kind of felt like it was just missing a lot. Like, I kind of wanted more from it, and I feel like I've said that with all of these books. With all of them I've said that they could go just a little bit deeper and just like have a little bit more to them, and I think it would make them just a little bit better. And so I felt the same with this one. I feel like this one was kind of lacking the most out of all of these books so far. But there is still another book coming out. I'm not sure if that's the last one, but the next couple was hinted at in this book, so I am really excited to see how that goes, and I do definitely want to read that book once it's out. But yeah, like I said, these books are great if you like sports romance and you just kind of want something quick and lighthearted to read. So I ended up rating this one 3.75 stars. The other ones I rated them like around 4 stars. Like I said, this one was just my least favorite so far of this series. So those were the 5 books that I completed in the month of October. But yeah, definitely let me know any of your thoughts on these books, if you've read them or if you're planning to read them, or let me know any books that you read in October. But that's pretty much it for this video. If you liked this and you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would stick around and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.